Rape and sexual assault on college campuses continues to be a huge controversial issue. However, there are some questions as to why administrators or coaches don't seem to do much or seem to brush cases under the rug whenever they're confronted with sexual assault allegations. Well, the Daily Beast recently wrote about one particular coach who wasn't about to brush sexual assault cases under the rug. In fact, he reported them to the authorities, and he alleges in a lawsuit that he got punished for doing so. So this coach is Timothy Fader, and he used to be the wrestling coach at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Timothy Fader has filed a federal lawsuit against the school's athletic director and former chancellor, alleging retaliation, wrongful termination, and defamation. So what he's saying is that on 2 different occasions, he was approached by young women who claimed that they were either sexually assaulted by someone on the team or sexually assaulted by someone who was a potential recruit to the team. And so in both instances, he went to campus police instead of going to administrators at the university. He's alleging that the administrators were not happy that he didn't go to them first. The first time he reported such allegations to the university on behalf of a woman in January of 2013, officials failed to even document it. This is what he's claiming. And if through this lawsuit we find that it's true, the school's actually breaking federal laws. The next allegations came in April of 2014 when an area mother phoned Fader and said her daughter, a former UW Whitewater student who once babysat for him, was sexually assaulted by a potential recruit to the wrestling team. The coach eventually learned that Whitewater cops declined to charge the man, but 3 weeks later, interim athletic director Amy Edmonds called him into her office and warned, "We could both lose our jobs over this." So, by the way, in the second case, they dropped charges because prosecutors believed that they could not prove that the sexual assault occurred beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, so that's how the law works, and so that's what happened. But what he did here, what the coach did, was the right thing to do. You should go to the authorities, and you should let them know what the allegations are.
Yep. Details of the accusations are gruesome, but they didn't press charges. So let's focus on the relevant part here in terms of what the administration did. Because I went into this story with a really open mind, because it's so hard for us on the outside to know all the details. And it might be that this guy was having issues with other staff and they were looking to get rid of him anyway, and then he keeps bringing up these false accusations. It could be, right? Or it could be that they're already on a list of 55 colleges nationwide who are being investigated by the federal government for their handling of sexual assault cases. And They're like, no, don't report it. God damn it. This good Samaritan, some bitch reporting this stuff on us, we're going to fire him, right? So that's why the devil's in the details. You really got to just dive in and see what happens here. And he's suing them, so they'll do all that officially, obviously, in the courtroom. But looking at it from the outside, 2 things really affected who I thought was right here. One was the other women who had been assaulted and had their cases ignored by the same university. And those were really interesting cases. So these are 2 separate cases filed earlier in January 2015, then one in July 2015. One unnamed woman, the first one, said, "I don't feel I was treated fairly. I don't think anybody should be treated the way that I was," referring to how the administration dealt with her when she said what had happened to her. She said, "It was worse than the assault, a lot worse. I regret with everything coming forward and saying anything." So that last sentence is devastating. That's the exact problem.
Yep.
That if you brush these things under the rug and you don't believe them and you don't follow up, people feel like I violated again. And she says it was even worse. Okay, now the second case was even more dramatic. Rachel Liska was another former student. She said she was sexually assaulted by a fellow U.S. Army ROTC member on campus. She's an exemplary student. Not only is she ROTC, she's had a 4.0 average. She was a volunteer EMT. She was asked to speak at commencement. It doesn't get any more exemplary. And even with her, they refused to accept her police report or medical records from the incident. And that was the late dean of students, Mary Beth Mackin, who didn't help her. She refused to interview 2 key witnesses. And she said, Rachel Liska did, I'm really bothered that the university still uses me as an exemplary image, but is so resistant to helping me at my most vulnerable time. Now, if you're not going to help her and you're not going to believe her, who are you going to help? Like, so that means like, no, it wasn't that, hey, you were wearing the wrong thing. These are all unacceptable excuses. But or you were out at night and you had it coming and it was unclear, it was this, it was that. No, you had the perfect case and you still said, yeah, don't bother us. You're annoying us and hurting our reputation.
Yeah, look, I think that what you just said, that last part about hurting their reputation, is what really fuels the type of behavior that you're seeing among administrators at these universities. Look, I don't know why these adults are unable to think of the potential consequences of not treating these cases appropriately. Let me be clear about something. Just because someone's coming forward and alleging rape or sexual assault doesn't mean that the person who's being accused is automatically guilty. There needs to be an investigation. We all agree to that, right? But at the same time, if someone comes to you with allegations like that, it is your obligation, it is your requirement as someone who's there to protect the students and be an administrator to move forward with a fair investigation and figure out what really happened. But they're so concerned with their reputation that they don't want to do that. And in their efforts to protect their reputation, they're actually ruining their reputation further, right? Because you think that the truth's not going to come out? You think these victims are just going to stay quiet? Of course they're going to speak out. That's why this is such a huge problem throughout the country.
But Anna, in the past, it would stay quiet. That's why they do this. Because in the past, they would bury this one time after another after another. It was standard operating procedure. No, you didn't. No one believes you. Move on, right?
But they start getting investigated in 2014. And then, you know...
Old habits die hard. And this guy, Fader, who they fired for being a good Samaritan and making sure that his athletes, right, and prospective athletes as well, don't, abuse women, they're like, okay, no, you're gone. And so how about Fader himself?
Oh, it gets worse.
3-time NCAA Division III Wrestling Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Excellent track record before he made the mistake of being a good guy and trying to help people. So now the part you're referring to, Anna, that's the second part I wanted to get.
Can I tell the second part?
Yes, please.
Okay, I want to present it. Okay, so this is, in my opinion, the worst part of the story, because not only did they refuse to renew his contract, they suspended him, right, after he went and reported this news to the authorities. And the way that they basically put the word out about what he did is they put out this super vague email to the community and made it seem like maybe he was someone who was involved in the sexual assault. So let me go ahead and read it to you. This was an email that was sent by Richard Teller. He was the former University of Wisconsin-Whitewater chancellor. He said, "I was notified that the Whitewater Police Department is investigating an incident involving an adult-aged recruit for the wrestling team. This matter is ongoing and I can only share limited information at this time." Telfer continued that his concerns about the circumstances surrounding the incident led him to put Fader on paid leave, making it seem as though Fader was somehow involved in a bad way, that he was a bad actor. And so as a result, even though he was, pretty much done with this school, he was having a hard time applying for other jobs because people were like, I don't know, was that guy involved in sexual assaults?
Yeah. So to me, that part was determinative because that shows that they were bad actors.
Yeah.
Because they know Fader is the one that turned the guy in. But yet they put out a letter that seems to imply that Fader was at fault. Yeah. And it's not like it didn't have consequences and they were not made aware of that. He was set to speak at a local elementary school, Fader was. They canceled the event because, quote, school officials were not clear as to whether he was allowed to be around children based on Telfer's letter. But Telfer never clarifies. He doesn't go, no, I didn't mean that. He was the good guy. No, he seems to have purposely put out a vague letter implying he's the bad guy. It winds up, he said he's at a soccer practice for his kids, and he overhears one of the parents saying, isn't that the coach that abused the girls? Oh! And they never correct that. No, by the end, it seems absolutely clear what happened. Again, it might seem clear from the outside, and you might find other details when you're in the actual courtroom. There's no trial going on here.
Right.
Okay, but from what we can see, that is devastating. So here's a guy who did the right thing, and he's not covering it up. He's doing exactly what any parent would want them to do when you entrust your kids to that university. You got a guy who's looking out for your daughter, making sure she's safe, and if she's not, that he's going to turn the people in and get justice, etc. And what do? They look to crush him.
Yeah, they punish him. And what does that do to other employees at universities who want to speak out and report sexual assault or rape to the authorities?
Well, this is how the culture of cover-ups happen, right? So that's why people don't want to report anything, whether it's the student herself who said, I wish I hadn't said anything because they made me feel even worse about this horrible thing that happened to me, or it's any decent administrator or coach or teacher who says, let me do the right thing, and he thinks, ooh, but I could get fired for doing the right thing. And so this is what leads to that culture, and it's really gross. So, you know, look, Fader's got a new job now, but this is all proven out, he's actually an American hero, and those are the guys who got to celebrate.
TYT's been on the air for a really long time. So if you're interested in watching old school clips and our reactions to it, become a member and watch TYT Classics. TYTnetwork.com/join.